All right, here we are. The first fight.
Okay,
Is,
we start off with Daniel da Silva versus Victor Altamirano
yep.
Moreno. Now, here's the thing about this one. Daniel da Silva, I believe you were high on him for a while, and you know, I just looked at it like, okay, maybe he is pretty good. Then I saw his fight with Jeff Molina. I was like, oh, okay. I mean, yeah, he did get finished by Jeff Molina, but it started off pretty good. Like he showed that he had a pretty good offensive jiu-jitsu game. But then I watched him in the second fight against the Wish version of Figueiredo, and which would be his brother,
Yeah.
Figgy's brother. And I was like, I don't know. Like he's supposed to be good at jujitsu. He's supposed to be really good at striking, but none of those were on display. Like the only thing that was different to me about that fight was that he had a different hairstyle. His hair was bleached, and
Bleach, yeah.
that was about it. So, what can you tell me about like your picks for these two?
Yeah. So same here. Prior to the UFC, I was very high on Daniel da Silva. Good striker, good kicks, good head kicks. Also good finishing rate as well, and also pretty good Brazilian jiu-jitsu as well. Now Victor, he his style is very, very gritty. He's pretty decent striking wise. He's mainly a striker, I believe. So I kind of feel like, I want to gamble on Daniel da Silva because sometimes fighters get into the UFC, they have these nerves and they don't perform to their potential all the time. Carlos Uberk, for example, his first fight, he got wild, knocked out. Second fight, he fought super safe. But the third fight, he showed he was more comfortable in the octagon at the highest level. So I feel like we're going to see more of Daniel da Silva's strengths in this fight, and he's going to fight more like he used to fight prior to the UFC. However, the pick for me is going to be Victor because I can't rely on the what ifs, and Victor seems to be more consistent. So Victor for me is the pick. Victor by unanimous decision.
Okay, I'd have to go with Victor as well, simply because of the fact that, like you just gave the example about Carlos Ulberg. Carlos Ulberg, unlike Daniel da Silva, looks better with every fight. Like the first fight, he got knocked out. Second fight, he fought safe, but he still won, and he still showed more of
Yeah,
his technical skill and his pacing skills. And then
yeah,
the next fight, he really showed why he comes out of the camp, um,
yeah.
the city kickboxing camp.
Now,
So,
to be fair, Daniel Silva, his last fight, a lot of people, could get caught in like a quick submission, like what was it, a heel hook or something like that?
but
One of
that's the
those
thing though.
submissions.
Even before he went down, he was getting caught with some nasty calf kicks. And I'm like, this should not be happening when you're fighting the Wish version of Figueiredo.
But I figured it'll look pretty improved in that fight as well. But yes,
Maybe Figueiredo will also show me something new. But
and this card, yeah.
yeah,
All
we'll
right,
get to the next one.
all right. So we both have Victor for this fight, right?
Yep.
All right, next fight, Richie Lang versus Jay Perrin. Who do you have in this fight?
I have to say Arichi Lang because I feel like he has insane forward pressure and relentlessness. And I don't think a lot of people are able to deal with that unless they have really sharp technique, like a guy like Jeff Molina, who's the only guy to finish him recently. Um, yeah, I just feel like you have to be really technical or really clean
Right.
most of the time to catch a guy like with that kind of hellacious pressure that Arichi Lang brings.
Yeah, agree. I agree. I think that Richie Lang has the power, the pressure. He has the range, and now Jay Perrin is decent. Decent hands. I believe decent wrestling, but I feel like Richie Lang is better everywhere than Jay Perrin. So the pick for me is as well is Richie Lang. I'm going to
And
say by
what is his
knockout.
my knockout?
Yeah,
I'd have to say finish in the third round. Arichi Lang, they called him the Mongolian murderer, right?
I believe that's him. Yeah,
Yeah, that's a cool nickname, and
that
he
is.
kind of reminds me like of a less skilled Korean zombie.
Ah, okay, okay. All right. So the pick is going to be a Richie Lang. Now, Amir Albazi versus Francisco Figueiredo, or the which version of a Figgy. Now, so as you can see by the odds, Amir is a huge favorite striker, great hands, power puncher. Um, Figgy, I'm going to be honest, I haven't really been impressed by him, especially when you see his brother and how great his brother is, as champion. I haven't been impressed really from him really, but his last fight he showed some different techniques. So I believe he is improving at a high rate in the UFC, meaning when your brother's a champion, you have to be improving, rapidly, getting that good training in. So I think this fight is more competitive than the odds show. Like minus 410 is crazy. It's crazy. However, the pick is going to be a mere knockout.
Mm, okay. Um, so yeah, I've said a lot about how he's like the Wish version of Figgy, and pretty much downplayed him so far for this whole episode. But the truth is, like a guy like uh, just being just being a sibling of Figgy could give him a lot of value, and we haven't really considered this. Like Figgy's at like Davison Figueiredo is a hairdresser.
Right.
This guy, this Francisco isn't. So, no, just maybe he might have less to worry about and less to think about than Figgy, and maybe that leaves more room for improvement. It's kind of an unorthodox way of looking at it, but maybe he'll show us something different, just like he showed against Daniel de Silva, who you know you were pretty high on, and you thought that he had, Daniel Silva had a lot of potential. So yeah, maybe I'll go with Figgy just for the fact, just for the sibling rivalry of it all.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay. All right. Next fight. AJ Fletcher versus Angalusa. Who do you have for this fight?
This is interesting because Angelusa, like, what? I'll go with Angelusa, but one thing that concerns me is that he doesn't have like that that fight changing power, in my opinion, for a guy who's built the way he is.
Hmm.
Um, for a guy who's built the way he is, you'd expect him to carry a kind of power like Yoel Romero or someone like that. You know what I mean? But that being said, I think he still has enough, I guess, pressure and physical attributes to win the fight overall.
I agree. I think that if he's able to keep it standing, then it's going to be the fight is in his favor big time. Now, AJ Fletcher has a lot of pressure. Great wrestler, strong wrestler, um, powerful takedowns, good top control. However, I think that the guy he's fighting is going to be able to keep him on the feet. I think that someone like Lusa is going to be hard to like take down and keep down, and he's going to be dangerous in those first rounds. You mentioned the power. I think that he's going to show he is kind of a power puncher versus this guy,
Mm,
and he's able to hurt him. I'm going to say first round TKO.
okay. So you got
Uh,
Angelusa also.
yep.
All right.
All right. Next fight. Miranda Maverick versus Shayna Young, which is a rematch, actually.
Yeah, we may as well skip this one, but just for viewers' sake, like
Yeah.
we'll just give our picks real quick. It's
Yeah.
simple. Miranda Maverick.
Same here. Miranda Maverick by unanimous decision, possibly finish. I don't see any way Shayna Young wins this fight. However, Shayna Young is training with she's training with someone now, a great coach, great coach. So it might give her a little X factor there, but I don't see this fight going different from the first time they fought. So the pick
Yeah.
is Maverick.
The only thing I'll say about Shayna Young is that she has a couple of sneaky kicks, high kicks, because she has kind of like a karate style. So
Yeah.
who knows? Maybe she'll catch Miranda Maverick slipping. But the thing is, Miranda Maverick has like a very tight guard, very
Yep.
defensively sound.
Yep.
So she's not gonna be that easy to find. You,
Exactly. Next fight. Shawn Woodson versus Luis Saldana. Great. This fight on paper is a great fight, great matchup stylistically. Shawn Woodson, long, rangy, tall, really big for the division. Great boxing, good striking overall, but his hands are his main centerpiece of boxing. Luis Saldana is more of a mix type of striker, throws in some kicks, punches, body kicks. I'm going to keep it simple. Shawn Woodson by TKO. I think Shawn Wilson is going to be a problem. If he's improving at the rate that he's shown already, he's a problem for the whole division. Outside of the top 5 at the moment. So Shawn Woodson, TKO, I want to say second round.
Okay. I'd have to agree simply because he's so dynamic in terms of I feel like people in UFC aren't used to those those boxers who have that those people who have that crazy boxing pedigree, the ones that like kind of remind you of like Floyd and just those slick boxers from from different eras. I feel like the MMA still hasn't quite caught up with that yet, and it's going to be on the feet. So that kind of proves to be a problem in the UFC. You see it with Bobby Green. You see it with honestly, you see it even with like a guy like Yanez.
Giannis,
You
yeah.
know, yeah, I have to go with Shawn Woodson also.
All right. And also Shawn Woodson has good takedown defense as well, and he's tall, so that helps him like stand back up. All right.
Mhm.
Next fight. Leonardo Santos versus Jared Gordon. All right. Yeah, who do you have for this fight?
Um, Man, I think Leonardo Santos is going to start off like really well and possibly look like um, he has a potential of finishing Jared Gordon. And then in the second round, if it even gets there, I think Jared Gordon is going to send him to another universe, an alternate universe.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Santos is almost 40. He might be 40, I think. He's a veteran. He's been fighting a while. He's shown that he still has power. He's still competitive in the first round, like you said. But he gasses like his tank isn't what it used to be. He gasses really quickly. So Jared Gordon is young, scrappy. He has pretty good wrestling, pretty good hands. I think Jared Gordon is going to be able to once Santos gasses, he's going to be able to maybe get a takedown, finish with some ground and pound, fight's over. So
Yeah,
yes,
and I also have to mention that Leonardo Santos is probably chinny by this point, like because he took some terrible beatings. Like I'm surprised that the UFC like held on to him
right.
because like at this point, like he's a liability to himself and his family because if he takes any more, if he takes the same kind of punishment, first of all, we don't know what the punishment he took already is going to do to him long term. But I can guarantee if he takes the same amount of punishment that he took in the last fight, um, it's not going to be a happy time like for his family in the future.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. All right, so we both have Jared Gordon. All right, Marcin Tubera versus Alexander Romanov. Man, I'm going to say it now. So Romanov is the favorite. Strong wrestler, takedowns, really powerful top control. You can tell that he's one of these guys that when he holds you down, it feels like a freaking car on top of you. Um, However, the competition he's fought hasn't really been that great in the UFC. So Tubera has a stronger strength of schedule. He's fought tougher competition. I feel like Tubera here is a live dog, and I feel like he's being kind of slept on as far as the lines go. Plus 290 underdog. Um, That being said, I'm gonna go with Romanov. I'm gonna go. He gets the takedown somehow, and he's able to get that top control and keep it down on the floor. But don't be surprised if Tibera surprises the world and gets him out of there striking. But have to go with the wrestler on this one.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Tybora on this one because one popular theme I've seen in the past few years is someone who's like a real phenom, and then they come up against someone who just basically fought a lot of solid competition. Even if that person doesn't have the same skill level as the certain special skill level, like the phenom, a lot of times you'll see, you know, when these phenoms are getting tested for the first time,
Right.
like they kind of have what's that called? Adrenaline dumps.
Yeah.
Like one example, Francis Ngannou was a phenom, and when he came up against Stipe for the first time, someone who can challenge him in multiple ways, he he wilted and he lost, and he also like wilted in that loss. When you look at what's her name, Lupi Godinez came off like a phenom, like she has a special skill with the grappling. But you see her against Angela Hill, someone who you're not, really that impressed with, but you know that Angela Hill has went against, she's one of those solid people who has just went against like all the good competition, all the great competition. And Angela Hill, you saw, kind of won that fight convincingly. Um,
Hmm.
Another example would be someone like a guy like Matt Brown versus a guy like Wonder Boy. You know what I'm saying? Like Wonder Boy was like a phenom with his like whole karate thing, and then you see Matt Brown. He's just one of those solid guys who has fought the best, not necessarily beat the best, but competed with the best, and then that happens over and over again. Like we just saw it with David Onama. We saw it with yeah, we saw it with David Onama and Nate Landwehr. Like David Onama is such a superior athlete. He has superior skills, but somehow he still lost. Like when you come up against that person who's not willing to go away that easy, like a lot of times, like that could give you that adrenaline dump. So I'm gonna go with Martin Tibera.
I think that whoa. I think that as far as fight IQ goes, a lot of that really, yeah, depends on fight IQ because you see fighters like the guy from what's his name? The Spanish guy, young guy, Morales, who fought someone who like sometimes the phenoms we see, young phenoms, they put him against veterans to see if that person's ready to cross that next level. Okay, is he or she ready to, to show who they really are? Some people like Hamza passed out with flying colors, or some people like, some of these phenoms passed out with flying colors, depending on who it is. Even some of these young guys and women pass that test, with flying colors. But you mentioned that whole theme of the veteranship and experience. I think that kind of theme is going to reoccur again on the main card. We get to that later on. But all right. So you have Tibera winning this fight.
I officially have Tibera by decision.
Okay. Now we get to the main card, and here we are at the main card. Tyson Pedro versus Harry Hunsucker. Um, Tyson Pedro is a minus 740 favorite, which is insane. Um,
Yeah, I
yeah,
feel like the positive thing that anybody has to say about Harry Hunsucker is that he has fast hands for a big guy.
yeah, right,
And
right.
what I'd say to that is that yeah, he has fast hands for a big man, but he's going down to Tyson Pedro's weight class. Is he going to be faster than Tyson Pedro? And is he going to be better like anywhere than Tyson Pedro, like overall, like in the ground, overall striking? Because this is
Yeah,
MMA, it's not a boxing match.
yeah, and based on the last two fights that I've seen from these guys, Tyson has shown the higher ceiling. He's shown the better improvements. He's been out for a while with injuries. In his last fight, those leg kicks, the timing, the feints. I can't go against Tyson in this fight. However, if you're betting, don't waste any time betting on Tyson. I mean, it's no, the value's not there. Plus, with big guys, one wrong miss or slip, it's lights out. So, it's not worth betting. But the overwhelming majority of times they fight, I think Tyson Pedro wins 9 times out of 10.
by a
Harry
landslide.
by a landslide. Harry just has like a puncher's chance, in my opinion. So Tyson Pedro, I'm gonna actually say first round stoppage via TKO or something.
All right, so we have Wu versus Lucy Podolova. Um, I'll have to go with Lucy Podolova on this one. The reason why is because I feel like a lot of times when you get kicked out of the UFC, like I feel like there's a good chance if you have to work your way back to the UFC, it takes that takes a lot of strength within itself. We see it with Brandon Moreno, who has become a completely different fighter, and he's like one of the elites right now. I can't really imagine anyone necessarily just beating him like it's just a given. Like certain people can be a toss up with him, but I don't think there's no givens in that division. So so those kind of things make you battle tested, and I'm just not impressed with Wu Yanan. You know what I mean? Like I don't think she's done anything significant in the UFC. Yes, she has some forward pressure. Um, she can compete, I guess, but I don't think she's had anything to strive for like Lucy lately. So that's what I think is gonna allow Lucy to win.
Okay, I agree, and I have the same pick as well. I also have Lucy as well. That being said, I'm not confident that she wins this fight either. This fight for me it's just a kind of a dud. This fight doesn't even belong on the main card. It's actually disgusting. This fight's on the main card. But but also has Lucy as well, winning winning the fight by, I don't know, potentially controversial split decision. Yeah, I don't know, but I have Lucy with the fight as well because we are not. I can't really rely on her. All right, next fight: the King of Rio, Jose Aldo versus Moraes. So you mentioned earlier in the card that we've seen fighters tested like phenoms, and when it gets to someone who's an experienced vet who's fought a lot of top competition, they don't really pass that test. We have that example here, Moraes versus Aldo. This is a chance for Moraes to really say, okay, I am that guy. You know, this is a chance for Aldo to say, nope, I'm still here. Like I'm still who I am. Man, my bet, my bet officially, no, not bet. My pick is going to be Moraes. Moraes is my pick. Moraes by unanimous decision. But as far as betting goes, my bet goes on Aldo because he's plus money. And to me, this fight is essentially a toss-up, I guess, like who's able to, striking versus wrestling. You know what I mean? But Jose Aldo's a live dog because he has the best takedown defense, good striking, and he's shown that he's still there. But I'm going off of the bet that Moraes is able to like chain wrestle and get it to the ground. What do you have?
And I'm going with Aldo all day. Um, I mean, basically, he's going up against, like you said, I mentioned earlier how when you're a phenom and you come up against that brick wall that's not willing to go away so easy, that could be an adrenaline dump. Well, right now, what he has in front of him is the possibly the greatest featherweight. So that's
Of all
a
time.
weight class up, possibly the greatest featherweight of all time, who's also big for the division. Merab is considered to be smaller for the division, and I think Aldo has the greatest defense, has the greatest one of the greatest takedown defenses of all time. He's defended against bigger fighters, and then the only people he's ever lost to are like in like the past 10 years are Volkanovski, Conor McGregor in his prime, Max Holloway, and Petr Yan, who many believe is still the best bantamweight on the planet. So yeah, I just can't go against that. So I would have to go with Aldo for my official pick. And
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean it makes perfect sense, you know. Next fight, Paulo Costa versus Luke Not Cold. All right. This fight right here, this fight right here, it's a weird one, man, because Paulo Costa is a minus 345 favorite. Luke is coming off of some knockout losses. Paulo Costa's coming off of a loss, but granted, he went all rounds with Martin Vettori at a higher weight division. He was injured, you know, but he also lost to Izzy prior to that. Claims that he had too much wine. For me, this one is a weird one for me. My logic says Paulo Costa knocks out Luke Rockhold. That's what logic tells me. History tells me Paulo Costa's pressure. A guy who went toe to toe with Yoel didn't back down. He's gonna knock out a guy who's been knocked out his last how many fights? 2-3 fights. Yeah. However, with that being said, if Luke Rockhold is fully recovered, he's had some time to regroup and rest from fighting. He might show up somewhat in this fight. He does have great top control, great wrestling, and great body kicks. He does have that. He's an athlete. He's training at one of the best gyms in the world. But I have to go with the young lion, and the guy who's just younger, hungrier. He's a beast, man. So I'm going to say Paulo Costa knockout. Paulo Costa second round knockout.
all right, I'm gonna go with Paulo Costa first round knockout because he's one of the best sprinters in the UFC.
Yeah.
And I mean, Rockhold got knocked out. His last fight, he got knocked out by Jan Blachowicz. And Jan Blachowicz kind of took his time too. Rockhold was just trying to get takedowns. And then when I look at Rockhold in his interviews, like I feel like there's like what do you call that? There's like a disassociation almost, like with
reality.
with reality, if that makes sense. I always kind of felt that way about him. I always felt that he was pretty delusional, but I felt like he was younger. He was physically stronger, and I feel like he still had more marbles left because he hadn't been knocked out as much. Yes, you know what I'm saying. I think Paulo Costa, even on a full bottle of wine the night before, is going to knock out Luke Rockhold in the first round.
Yeah. So we have Paulo Costa. All right, here we are. The main event of the evening. Kamaru Usman, champion, welterweight champion, one of the pound for pound greatest of all time, potentially the greatest of all time, going against Leon Scott Edwards. Now, Leon has not lost since the fight they had like 7 years ago. So keep that in mind. Leon has been on a crazy winning streak. Didn't look like and a dominant streak as well. He wasn't in like brawls where he's bloody and bruised up. The most danger he's been in the last 7 years was that one moment when Diaz clipped him. A fight that he was embarrassing Nate Diaz and dominating him from pillar to post. I'm gonna shock people with this prediction, but I mean I've been a fan of Leon for years. A fan of his skill set. Yeah, boring personality, whatever. But I've saw his skill set for years, and I've noticed that he's been going on the radar. Kamaru Usman, it's hard to bet against him. It really is. I'm gonna go out on a limb and take Leon for this main event. I'm gonna take Leon by unanimous decision. I think Leon's able to keep the fight standing. more times than not. I think he's able to catch Usman. I think he's able to defend the takedowns a bit. I think that Leon has better anti-wrestling than Jorge, and Jorge was able to defend Leon the first fight. Second fight, it was a stand-up fight. I think Leon is much better with the hands, better with striking overall, more tools than Jorge, body kicks, leg kicks, spinning elbows, elbows in the clinch, all this stuff. I think Leon is a better mixed martial artist than Kamaru Usman as far as overall. Kamaru Usman is a better athlete. He has the mentality. He has a champion spirit. He's probably in his prime now. But I think Leon pulls it off. And I'm gonna say something even crazier. Don't be surprised if Leon submits Kamaru Usman. Or who you got?
Okay, so I'm glad you mentioned, a possibility of a finish because, in my opinion, that's the only way he beats Kamaru. Like he has to finish Kamaru Usman because Kamaru Usman has proven to have one of the most iron minds in the
100%.
UFC. Like he gets knocked down, he figures out a way to beat you with a damn jab. You understand you understand what I'm saying? He's smart enough not to go on the ground with a guy like what's his name? Gilbert Burns.
Yep.
So he has one of the best fight IQs in the UFC. He has one of the strongest minds. So he's a guy that you have to you got to pry the belt out of his cold dead hands to
Yeah.
beat him. So that being said, Leon Edwards does have the tools to finish him, even though Leon Edwards hasn't been finishing his fights lately. But there's something to be said for the fact that Leon Edwards has had this particular fight on his mind for the past 7 years and has been such a crazy obstacle with COVID and the eye poke with Bilal Muhammad, all this other craziness. So I think that might be enough to get him that finish. Sometimes you have a special motivation for a specific fighter, just like John Jones wasn't finishing a lot of his fights. Then he came up against DC the second time and he finished DC. Like, what are the odds of finishing DC? Like, DC doesn't really get finished like that. So I'll have to go pick Leon Edwards based on his journey to get here. Leon Edwards, based on his journey to get here, I think he's going to be able to, pull it off.
Now, a lot of viewers are gonna say, "Oh, these guys are crazy."
We got 1 minute left.
Yeah, a lot of viewers like these guys are crazy. They got Leon. Yeah. Plus two, Kamaru's coming off with the hand injury, the knee injury. If Leon targets those leg kicks, those John Jones kicks as well, those teep kicks, like, who knows? All right. Any last words?
Man, can't wait to watch these fights. We're gonna be like, it's gonna be fun.
All right, guys, that is it. Those are our predictions for UFC 278. Let us know in the comments. Do you agree, disagree? Who do you have with winning the main event? What are your locks for this card? And yeah, next time on Beauty and Violence. Peace out.
Peace out. That was solid.